Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down an economic idea that's over a century old, but it still has a huge impact on how we think about money. And it all starts with a question you can answer for yourself right now.
No, seriously, think about it for a second. Why are you holding on to that money instead of just spending it the moment you get it? The answer to that simple question gets right to the core of a major economic revolution. You see, the first crack at an answer, what's known as Fisher's transaction theory, was pretty mechanical. It basically saw money as just a tool, like a conveyor belt for one thing and one thing only: buying stuff. But then, in the early 20th century, this group of brilliant minds at Cambridge University, we're talking Alfred Marshall, A.C. Pigou, they looked at that explanation and said, hang on, this is missing the biggest piece of the puzzle: us, human beings and the choices we make.
They argued that money isn't just some river that's constantly flowing through the economy. No, they saw it more like a reservoir, something we consciously decide to hold on to keep as a store of our wealth.
And the Cambridge economists knew we hold cash for all sorts of very human reasons, right? For day-to-day convenience, for those emergencies, to pay bills down the road, or maybe just for that feeling of security it gives you. It's a choice, a psychological thing, not just some automatic transaction.
So, this whole new way of thinking, that we actually demand money just for the sake of holding it, was boiled down into an elegant and, a surprisingly simple equation. Let's take a look.
And here it is: M equals KPY. Now I know, it's an equation, but stick with me, because this little formula makes a really big statement. It says the total amount of money in an economy, M, is directly tied to how much of our income we choose to keep as cash.
Okay, let's break it down really quick. M is easy, that's just all the money out there. P is the price of things, and Y is all the stuff we produce, our real income. So P times Y together, that's the total income of the entire country in actual dollars.
But here is the secret sauce of the whole Cambridge idea, that little letter K. That K represents the fraction of our income we choose to hold on to as cash. You can think of it as our collective cash comfort level.
So, how big of a deal was this new idea? How much did it really challenge that old mechanical way of thinking? Well, the difference is pretty much night and day.
This table just lays it all out. Fisher's theory was totally mechanical, focusing on money as a flow. It was always moving. But the Cambridge theory, it's all about behavior. It sees money as a stock, a pile of wealth that we hold. It puts human choice right at the center of the picture.
Look, if you want to boil this all down to one single idea, it's this. Fisher cared about the moment money is spent. Cambridge cared about the time money is held. That's it. Money spent versus money held.
Now, of course, no theory is perfect, and the Cambridge approach, as groundbreaking as it was, had some absolutely brilliant insights, and yeah, a few pretty big blind spots.
Its biggest win, by far, was putting human psychology and this whole concept of demand for money on the map. It was just way more realistic, and it basically paved the way for a lot of modern economic thought, including from guys like John Maynard Keynes.
But critics pretty quickly found a massive hole in the theory. They overlooked a huge reason that influences our decision to hold cash. Any ideas what it might be?
The interest rate. I mean, come on, think about it. If you can earn a really high return by investing your money or just putting it in a savings account, you're probably not going to keep a lot of it sitting around doing nothing, right? The Cambridge equation totally ignored this opportunity cost.
And yeah, it made a couple of other assumptions that were a bit shaky. It kind of assumed our cash holding habits, that K factor, were always stable. But we know that's just not true. When things get uncertain, people's desire to hold cash can totally skyrocket. Plus, it still clung to that old classical idea that the economy is always running at full steam.
Okay, so it had its flaws. Why are we even talking about it 100 years later? Well, because its core ideas are, believe it or not, still incredibly relevant today. Let's see how it applies to our world right now.
Take a look at this. This is the modern equation that economists and central banks use to figure out money demand. Seem a little familiar? It's basically the Cambridge equation, almost exactly the same, which just goes to show you how a 100-year-old idea is still at the heart of how our economy works.
And this theory also helps explain the impact of all our modern tech. As we use things like digital wallets and tap to pay more and more, our need to carry physical cash around, our K, it goes down. And when K falls, money starts moving through the economy much, much faster.
And that right there is its lasting legacy. The very idea that a central bank can predict and forecast the demand for money, which is a huge part of modern banking, that all started with the foundation built by these Cambridge economists.
So the big takeaway here is that the Cambridge theory was a huge shift in thinking. It took us from seeing money as just a tool to seeing it as a choice. And that idea is still so powerful today, and it leaves us with a really fascinating question for the future. As physical cash starts to fade away, how is our fundamental human desire to hold wealth going to change and adapt?